When was the last time you left a place feeling more tired than when you arrived? Not physically tired, not the kind of tiredness that a good night's sleep can fix. I mean the other kind, the tiredness in your chest, the heaviness that settles behind your eyes on the drive home, the quiet feeling that something, some small but real piece of you was taken and you are not sure you will get it back. If you know that feeling, you are not alone and you are not broken. You may simply be visiting the wrong places. My name is Mahinda Siri Thero. I have been walking the path of the Dhamma for many decades, and today I want to share something that has been on my heart, a simple teaching, but one that I believe matters deeply for those of us in the later years of our lives. Today, we will talk about 6 places, not places you can find on a map, not buildings or cities or roads. These are places of the mind, places of habit, places we return to again and again without asking whether we should still be going there at all. Stay with me, because by the end of this talk, I believe something in you will feel a little lighter. In the Buddhist tradition, we do not see old age as a time of loss. We see it as a time of ripening. A mango does not apologize for leaving the green stage behind. It simply becomes what it was always meant to be, sweeter, softer, more itself. And it nourishes those around it in ways the young fruit never could. You, at this stage of your life, are that fruit. But here is what I have noticed, both in my own practice and in walking alongside so many people over the years. Even those of us who have lived wisely for decades still carry certain habits, certain loyalties to places that once made sense but no longer serve us. The Buddha spoke often about upadana, clinging. We cling to people, to possessions, to ideas, and perhaps most of all, to places, the familiar grooves our minds return to, day after day, almost without thinking. The Dhammapada opens with these words: mind is the forerunner of all actions. All deeds are led by mind, created by mind. Where the mind goes, life follows. So today we ask honestly, where is our mind going? And is it time, gently, compassionately, to stop visiting some of those places? Let us begin. The first place I want to speak about is one that many people visit every single day, sometimes without even realizing it. I call it the house of old grievances. You know this house. Perhaps it is a certain family gathering, Thanksgiving, a birthday dinner, where the conversation always, somehow, circles back to the same old wounds. Who said what 30 years ago? Who was favored as a child? Who owes whom an apology that has never come? Or perhaps it is a friendship, someone you have known for decades, where every phone call eventually finds its way to the same dark room, the old betrayal, the unhealed hurt, the story told again and again with the same cast of villains and the same ending. In the Buddhist teaching, we call this pattern upadana, clinging, and the image the Buddha used is striking. He said, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Now I want to be gentle here, because grief is real. Hurt is real. There are wounds that were genuinely unjust, and the pain of them is not something to dismiss. But there is a difference between acknowledging pain and living inside it. There is a difference between remembering what happened and rebuilding it, brick by brick, every time you walk through that door. At this stage of life, with the years ahead more precious and fewer, we must ask ourselves honestly, am I going to this place to heal? Or am I going to re-experience a suffering that is no longer happening? Because the argument ended decades ago. The person may have changed, or died, or forgotten. But inside the house of old grievances, it is always that same afternoon. It is always that same wound. Forgiveness, true forgiveness in the Dhamma, is not a gift you hand to the person who hurt you. It is the door you open to let yourself out. You do not have to invite them to dinner. You do not have to pretend it did not happen. You do not even have to feel warmth toward them. You simply have to stop living in a house built from their mistakes. This week, if you notice yourself being pulled toward that house, pause. Take one slow breath and ask, is this memory serving me today, or am I serving it? The second place may surprise you, because we often think that as we grow older, we stop caring so much about what others think. And in some ways, that is true. In our 60s, 70s, and beyond, we have usually stopped performing for strangers. We have stopped wearing ourselves out trying to impress people we barely know. But there is a subtler version of this, and it is the one I want to address today. I call it the arena of other people's opinions. This is the place inside us that still asks, does my family respect me? Do the people at church think well of me? Did my old colleagues remember what I accomplished? Does anyone still see me as significant? In the Buddhist teaching, this is connected to mana, a form of pride that is less about arrogance and more about the deep human hunger to be recognized, to matter, to be seen. And at this stage of life, mana can take on a particular ache, because many of the roles that once gave us that recognition, our careers, our positions, our title as the family provider, the community leader, the one everyone depended on, those roles have shifted or ended. And so we go looking for the arena. We attend events we do not enjoy because we want to be seen attending. We drop our accomplishments into conversation because we need someone to reflect back to us that our life meant something. We scroll through social media watching others receive the validation we quietly crave for ourselves. I once knew a monk, a very senior monk, deeply respected, who was invited to a large and prestigious ceremony in his honor. He declined. When asked why, he said simply, "I no longer need anyone to know I was in the room." That is not coldness, that is freedom. The practice I offer you here is simple, and you can apply it before any social engagement. Before you go, ask yourself quietly, am I going to give something, or am I going to this place to be seen? If the answer is the second one, that is not wrong, that is human, but it is worth knowing. Because when we go to the arena needing something from the crowd, we almost always come home emptier than when we left. The people who truly love you, they already know your worth. You do not need to prove it. And those who do not see it, no performance will ever be long enough to convince them. Rest from the arena. You have already earned it. The third place is one of the busiest places I know. I call it the marketplace of comparison. You walk in, sometimes without meaning to, and suddenly you are measuring her health against yours, his children's success against your children's, their retirement, their home, their energy, their grandchildren, their faith, all laid out like goods on a table, and you are standing there trying to calculate where you rank. In Buddhism, this is called issa, a word often translated as envy. But it is more nuanced than simple envy. Issa is the suffering that arises when we believe that someone else's good fortune somehow diminishes our own. And here is what makes this particularly painful in the later years. The marketplace of comparison wears a very convincing disguise. It disguises itself as caring. I'm just worried about my health because my friend walks so much better than I do. I'm just thinking about my grandchildren because my neighbor's grandchildren call every single day. I'm just noticing that other people seem to have made better choices. But underneath the worry, underneath the noticing, there is that old ache. Am I enough? Did I do enough? Have I lived well? The Buddha offered a teaching on two lamps. One lamp cannot become brighter by extinguishing another. Each flame is its own. Each one burns according to its own oil, its own wick, its own conditions. Your life is not made smaller by someone else's abundance, and their ease does not make your struggle larger. The practice here is a small but radical shift in language. When you notice the comparison arising, and it will arise because we are human, try replacing the thought, they have more, with, I have enough to practice with today. Not as a denial of difficulty, but as a reorientation. Because what you have, whatever it is the exact material for your practice. It is enough. It has always been enough. Stop visiting the marketplace of comparison. There is nothing there worth buying. I want to speak now about a place that is very specific to the lives of many Americans, especially those who are home more than they used to be. I call it the Temple of Endless News. You know this temple. Perhaps you visit it in the morning with your coffee. Perhaps it is the television that runs in the background through the afternoon. Perhaps it is the phone, the headlines, the notifications, the alerts, a constant low hum of urgency that never quite resolves. This is not a teaching against being informed. An engaged citizen is a responsible one, and the Buddha never asked us to close our eyes to the world. But there is a difference between being informed and being consumed. In Buddhist psychology, we speak of vitakka, the directed movement of the mind. An untrained mind, left to its own, will turn toward whatever is loudest, most alarming, most emotionally charged. This is not weakness, it is simply the nature of an unguided mind. And the news, designed as it is to capture and hold attention, is very, very good at feeding that unguided movement. For a mind in the later years, this is especially significant because the mind in old age needs, more than anything, stillness. It needs a place to settle. Researchers have found that older adults who consume news heavily throughout the day carry significantly elevated stress hormones, the body registering crisis after crisis that it has no way to resolve. The world's suffering is real, but watching it on a screen for 4 hours will not heal it, and it will cost you something you cannot get back, the quiet of your own mind. Try this practice. Give yourself a news fast. 20 minutes in the morning, enough to stay informed, and then turn it off. Replace even 10 minutes of that time with sitting quietly, watching the light in the room, breathing, just breathing. The world will continue to turn, and you, with a clearer, stiller mind, will actually be of more use to it. This fifth place is perhaps the one that will take the most courage to speak about and to hear. I call it the room where you're always the caretaker. You know someone like this. Perhaps you are someone like this. There is a person, maybe a family member, maybe an old friend, who calls when they are in crisis, who needs you to listen, to advise, to carry, to fix, to be there. And you are there. You have always been there. You are good at being there. But when is the last time that person called to ask how you are doing? When is the last time the door to that room swung the other way? In Buddhist teaching, we honor karuna, compassion. It is one of the 4 divine abodes, the Brahma Viharas, the highest qualities of the heart. The Buddha taught that compassion, the wish for all beings to be free from suffering, is among the most noble of human capacities. But there is something the Buddha also understood. Compassion without wisdom becomes exhaustion, and exhaustion in the end helps no one. There is a word in modern psychology, codependency, that describes something the Dhamma also recognized. The subtle, painful pattern of making another person's well-being the constant center of your own life, where their crisis is always more urgent than your peace, where you give so freely and so completely that you forget to tend to the field of your own heart. I want to tell you about a woman, I will call her Margaret, who came to a meditation retreat some years ago. She was 68 years old. She sat down in her first session and almost immediately she began to cry. Not from the meditation, simply from the silence. She said afterward, I have been the person everyone calls for 50 years, and I have never once sat in a room this quiet. I gave my whole life away, and I forgot to live it. Compassion, true compassion, knows the difference between helping someone walk and carrying them indefinitely so they never have to learn. You can love someone completely and still say, I cannot carry this for you today. That is not selfishness, that is wisdom. That is the kind of compassion that can sustain itself for years because it does not destroy the one offering it. If there is a room in your life where you are always the caretaker and never the cared for, I ask you, gently, visit less. Or at minimum, begin to notice the cost of every visit and know that loving someone does not require you to be endlessly available, to be drained by them. Your peace is also sacred. Your energy is also precious. Do not give it all away. And now we come to the sixth place, the one I think is the most subtle, the most common, and the one that most people never expect me to name. I call it the museum of who you used to be. You will recognize this place by its language. Listen for the phrase, I used to be. I used to be the one everyone depended on. I used to run this organization. I used to have energy. I used to be strong. I used to matter in a certain way. The museum of who you used to be is full of beautiful things, real things, a career that meant something, a role in a family that shaped the people you love, a strength, a talent, a season of life that was genuinely wonderful. I am not saying those things were not real. I am not saying they should be forgotten. But there is a difference between honoring your past and living in it, between gratitude for what was and grief for what is no longer. In the Dhamma, we speak of anicca, impermanence. All things arise and pass. The seasons of our lives are no different. The role of provider passes. The role of the strong one passes. The version of you that ran marathons or ran boardrooms, that version passes, as all things must. And here is what anicca teaches us. Clinging to a version of yourself that no longer exists does not preserve it. It only prevents you from becoming who you are capable of being now. A river cannot flow backward, but it is still water. It still nourishes the earth it moves through. It is still, in its essence, completely itself, even as it takes a new shape around new stones. You are still yourself, fully, even now. The practice I offer for this place is a question, just one question, to ask yourself each morning before the day begins. Not what did I used to do, but what can I offer today with exactly who I am right now? Not the person you were, not the body you had at 40, not the title that used to follow your name, just you, as you are, on this morning, with whatever wisdom, whatever warmth, whatever presence you carry. That offering is not a lesser thing. It may be the truest thing you have ever given. Stop living in the museum. The living world is waiting for you outside its doors. So we have walked together through 6 places today. The house of old grievances. The arena of other people's opinions. The marketplace of comparison. The temple of endless news. The room where you're always the caretaker. And the museum of who you used to be. I want to say something clearly before we part. None of these places are evil. None of the people you may find there are villains. These places exist because we are human. Because we love and we have been hurt by love. Because we have worked hard and want to be seen. Because we care about the world. Because we are generous. Because we had a beautiful past. These places were never the enemy. But we are in the later years of this life, and the later years ask something of us that the earlier years did not. They ask us to become selective. To understand at last that our energy is not infinite, our time is not unlimited, and the quality of where we place our attention becomes the quality of the life we are still living. In the Buddhist tradition, we say that a lamp does not need to burn in every room of the house at once. It only needs to burn where someone is sitting in the dark. You, at this age, are that lamp, but only if you protect your flame. My invitation to you, just one small practice to carry with you this week, is this. From these 6 places, choose one. Just one. The one that you recognized most clearly in yourself today. And for 7 days, try not to visit it. Not forever, just 7 days. See what happens to your energy. See what happens to your peace. See what the space feels like. May you walk gently and well. May whatever remains of this life be filled with the quiet, unshakable peace that is your birthright. May all beings be free from suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.